Welcome to another episode of The Marketer's Edge, a series designed to share senior level marketing perspective about marketer challenges, opportunities, and agency relationships. Our goal is to help marketers learn from other marketers across different industries and to help provide perspective for agencies about the things marketers deal with every day to help them better represent their clients and win new business. Today, we're talking with Andrew Pudduck, the head of digital sales transformation, brand, and marketing at Cutter and Buck in Seattle. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and share a little bit of what I've learned along the way from some successes and too many failures. But we all get better every day.
Absolutely. No, it's great. I was really looking forward to speaking with you. So thanks for making the time. I know you've got a busy schedule. So before I've got a handful of questions for you, but before we jump into those, I wanted to see if you could tell me a little bit about Cutter and Buck and what your charge was when you joined them a few years ago. I'd like our audience to kind of know what kind of company it is and what you do for them.
Yeah, Cutter and Buck is a 30-year-old heritage apparel brand. It has roots in the golf industry. And when I was doing my due diligence prior to joining Cutter and Buck, a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, Cutter and Buck. My dad has Cutter and Buck. My grandfather has Cutter and Buck." And that's where the relationship really ended, my dad and my grandfather. And so my charge was, how do I get that new generation? How do I get them to say, oh yeah, Cutter and Buck is something that I appreciate and that I really like and that I'll gravitate towards. So when I look at the overarching umbrella, it's how do I get this next generation, the new generation, to say, okay, that has relevancy in my life. I see value in that product and I want to engage with that product.
That's great. And as you were sort of laying that out, I was thinking there are plenty of other brands and plenty of other industries that probably face the same situation. A established brand maybe losing some of its customer base and trying to figure out a way to reinvent itself. And so leads nicely into my first question. I get the sense from your LinkedIn profile, like you said, that moving to Cutter and Buck, moving the company into more of a modern day marketing world, wasn't the easiest of tasks. I'm curious, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when helping the company make this transition, and how did you find your way around them?
Yeah, you touched upon it, Mark. There are so many corporations out there that need to evolve. And they're great people, great products, great heritage brands, but they don't necessarily know how to evolve. And so many times when corporations are faced with that product life cycle that goes up and then stagnates and then goes down,
Hmm.
when they're on that plateau or the downward stagnation or downward, they they get very worried and they start to panic and they say, "Oh my gosh, we're losing market share, we're losing customers, we're losing revenue," and they try to extend their business into new avenues as opposed to figuring out how did they get there, what got them there, and then can we improve upon that? Obviously, we got there for a reason. How do I improve upon that? And that's where the new business segments, new business extensions come out. And it's not really a total reach for something new, it's reinventing what you had before. And so that's really what I've done with Cutter and Buck and what I've done throughout my career. Gone in with corporations that are at that plateaued part or going down in that business cycle and said, all right, we got here for one reason or another.
Hmm.
How do we get out of this? And so
Right.
much of that is looking at where you are. And a lot of those answers you'll hear from people internally is the kind of the curse of knowledge. And they'll say essentially, well, we need a faster horse. No, we actually don't need a faster horse here. We need this thing called an automobile. And that automobile will allow us to go faster down this road. Because that's the objective, to get down this road faster. A horse won't necessarily, faster horse won't necessarily get us there, but this new thing called an automobile will get us there and we'll be able to get there faster
Right.
and quicker.
Were there internal challenges or struggles that you had to help the organization sort of get past in order to achieve the kind of things you wanted to achieve?
Yeah, in any organization, you will have those the curse of knowledge, the ingrained system, the ingrained processes in place that did work for a long time and were very successful for a long time. It's the justification of, all right, this is how we need to migrate from where we were to where we need to be, and then showing little proof points along the way to prove,
Right.
okay, this migration is working, working, working. That way, you get the buy-in from everybody. If you don't have the buy-in, you're a one person show up against
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. And that next question I was going to ask is if you had any advice or counsel that you give to marketers or the agency audiences that are listening on how to best tackle a task like the one you faced. And you gave one example of, sort of little bite-sized successes to show them that this thing is working. Anything else that you learned that you would either never do again, or on the flip side, absolutely do it if faced with the same challenge once more time, one more time?
Yeah, I'll start that on the back end there. I would be, and especially in today's world and in the future, forever, be be very aggressive in the presentation of quantifiable evidence to support any sort of migration or change. And don't be afraid to do that. That's what we're there for. We're there to be the ones to always push the envelope. We're there to be the ones to justify those envelope pushing conversations and be the forerunner of that. So with that being said, how do you get there? Quantifiable evidence, quantifiable evidence, quantifiable evidence. And that's kind of that's somewhat hard thing for a lot of people in the world of marketing to comprehend, who got into marketing or think marketing is pretty pictures and a nice tagline or whatever that is. Yes, that's part of it, but how does that directly translate into increased metrics, whatever those metrics are?
Mhm.
Clicks, views, revenue, visits, time on site, all of those.
Right, right. Okay. So, what was it? Was sort of changing the trajectory driven by a repositioning, sort of a reorganization of how and who you are selling to, or the channels? What, just sort of paint a picture of the things that you had to affect in order to move this brand beyond where it was.
The not the easiest, but the most quantifiable evidence is the relationship that we had to the end consumer. Whether
Okay.
that consumer was a B2B, a brick and mortar store, or whether that consumer comes through Amazon.com or on our D2C channels. It was taking that relationship that used to be based on a rep visiting a brick and mortar or a rep visiting a buyer 6 months ahead of when that product comes out, saying, here's my line. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Hope that they get back in X amount of days, weeks, months. In the meantime, you're ordering that product based on this hope, this algorithm that they will purchase. Inevitably, the product comes in, not all of it's sold, so you've got this built up inventory in your warehouse.
Hmm.
Changing that entire equation from this futures model, which has always been the model in apparel and still is very much the model in apparel, but we changed our model to an at once, always on, transparent transaction, meaning I still have the relationships with the golf courses, but now they can go to my enhanced website and view real time inventory, place orders, track orders, because on the retail shelf they don't have the money to invest in a what we used to know as a beautiful inventoried four way.
Hmm.
Now they fill in on two products here and one product there and one product there. So how do we position ourselves as that instantaneous value add solution to them? And that's what we've done. Change that equation of how we go to sell and go to market.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. I've got to believe the business of apparel is a highly competitive one, and it seems that most of your focus when you came on board was to transform the company digitally and really dial up sales, which it sounds like you've done a great job of doing that. I'm curious, while there's clearly a nice story behind Cutter and Buck, as I studied the brand and tried to learn a little bit more about it before today's interview, the story is somewhat sort of tucked behind the merchandise, so to speak. And I'm curious, is that a conscious decision because you had so many sort of sales related issues that you had to deal with? And I'm curious also in the type of the world, that you're operating in, does brand and positioning sort of matter less than simply getting eyeballs on the goods that people, might want to buy?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a traditional brand marketer, I started my career at Nike where brand is king and everything rotates around that. Um, as a traditional brand marketer, that's always my heartbeat, if you will, my pacing blood. Coming into Cutter and Buck, we immediately realized that we had to change that business cycle relationship, the sales relationship.
Yeah.
So all effort and momentum was put to that. Once we've got that to a platform where right now we're ingrained with the Amazons, the Fanatics, and things like that,
Mhm.
we can do the API integrations and things are moving nicely. Now I can concentrate on the brand. And that's so important because the brand is what differentiates you in today's world.
Sure.
Every product that's made out there has similarities. Every product has a very similar manufacturing, supply chain, et cetera, et cetera. It's the quality and the value that you build into that brand that's going to be a differentiator. Cutter and Buck is a premium brand, so we have to have a premium product that comes with it. We have to have premium service that comes with it. We have to show value at every step. And so now, once we've got our systems and processes in place, it's concentrate on the brand, brand, brand,
Hmm.
brand.
Yeah.
And an example of that is, sustainability. It's obviously something that we our company's based in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. So we, as purveyors of this incredible landscape that we have here, realize that we need to be at the forefront of sustainability. So one of our huge pushes is by 2025 to have 80% of our products have a truly quantifiable, sustainable reason for living.
Hmm.
And that's going to be a huge thing that we're going to tell the world. So what am I doing right now? I'm changing all of my packaging so it's 100% sustainable. I'm changing my poly bags so they break down in landfills. I'm putting a lot of effort, and we're all putting a lot of effort to make sure that we're paying off on this brand promise that we made to ourselves, but more importantly to our customers to
Yeah.
show that we add value to their lives.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I see we had to get the house in order,
Mm-hmm.
at first before you started tackling the brand issues. Do you, well, actually, let me change the subject a bit here. I noticed as I sort of was reviewing your background, you've got some agency experience. I think even own agency. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm curious how that experience of being on the agency side has influenced your thinking and the way you run your business.
Yeah, I view agencies. Obviously, I was an agency owner. I've used them a lot, as we all do it from time to time. Agencies are that ace in the hole. Agencies are those talented men and women that will come with that different angle. They need to come with that different angle for you, and that relationship has really come under a microscope recently, in that the agencies need to come forward with quantifiable, actionable things that you can move upon immediately. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be this huge overarching thing, but what's this one little thing we want to test and then tweak and test and tweak and test and tweak that grows and grows and grows and grows?
Mhm.
That goes from everything from acquisition of databases, that goes from everything, how you're testing on your website, A, B's, and C's, things like that. So agencies are while you're doing your day-to-day business with your internal team and getting caught up on the email chase, agencies are that great ace in the hole to have and come, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. The big ideas, those are very few and far between. It's the little things that eventually add up to a big movement.
Right, right. That's so true. And I'm curious, just again, based on your experience, any advice that you give to marketers looking to maybe better their relationship with their agency
Yeah,
and
I
get
always
and
go back.
and turn it into a more productive one?
Yeah, I always go back to a saying from a meditation. Every day is a chance to begin again. Every moment is a chance to begin again. And I really push my agencies to begin again a lot, meaning start fresh with every business scenario. How would you approach that? Don't look at the curse of knowledge with this company has XYZ in place. So these are constraints, or this is what we have to do or can't do. How can we look at every need, every consumer need in a new way and say, how do we add value to this? Take that to your clients, take that to your customers, and say, this is how we think we can add value in this vertical, in this situation, in this time period. The marketer, the corporation, if they have the an open mindset, a growth mindset, will realize, my goodness, my systems may not be set up that way, but there's some value in here. How can I migrate to this new idea, this new initiative, this new thought to grow whatever this initiative wants, needs, desires to grow?
Mhm. And on the flip side, any advice you give to an agency, to help them maximize the opportunities to work with their clients?
Immediate solutions. Come with immediate solutions. Realize that everybody's coming with the same business perspective of, well, let me come in and let's, learn about your business and let's throw out some ideas. A lot of times when they're throwing out the ideas, it's based off things that they want to do, things that they have an innate desire to do their whole career. Well, that's fine and dandy if you have an innate desire to do something, but tie that into my business and make it very actionable and easy for me to engage. Lower those hurdles for me to test it, because my budget is already in place, my initiatives are already in place, my staff's already in place, my relationships are already in place. So make this test very easy for me to take action on it, and then justify it if we want to take further action on
Mhm.
it.
You mentioned earlier that, unless I heard you wrong, you are working with marketing agencies currently?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
And what are you using agencies to do for Cutter and Buck most often?
Digital optimization and digital speed
Okay.
is the primary need. I have various agencies and internal constituents that I utilize for experts, a copywriter here, a graphic person there, integration person there, but they ultimately all tie into feed this digital engine, and that's what business is all about now. How can these various specialties feed this digital engine to go? Because syndication is the king right now.
Mhm.
Syndication of all of your assets, to disseminate that out all at once, a million times, all in the same second, is that will win today's business world.
Yeah. Outside of the technical expertise in digital, specifically, any other advantages that you see in using an outside firm?
Yeah, they can come with new perspectives, and I've always been very, very impressed with their perspectives on how to approach the customer in a unique, different way to add value to their life. So I always really, really appreciate that, because they have the ability to step away from the day to day that I'm in, to say, like, okay, here's this customer segment and here's what we think would work for them. Here's another segment, here's what would work for them. How do we add value? How do we essentially put a smile on their face and make their day?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, that's what's going to move the needle. Yes, there's all these metrics. Yes, there's all this quantifiable stuff, but it comes down to the simple relationship of improving that person's moment, improving that person's day, and how do we do that? Because if you're able to do that, then you're going to see those quantifiable results. But start with the human, start with fulfilling their need and adding value to their life.
Yeah. That's great. And I'm curious, as you look forward, what's your prediction on the state of the apparel sales and marketing world? How do you think the apparel industry will look different or be different than it looks today? 3, 5 years out. both in terms of the
Yeah,
product and how it's marketed and how it's sold.
that's a great question. I would hope that retail will still be around. You know, you always hear of retail's dead, retail's dead. But as a human being, we love retail. We love touching and feeling and trying on. And places that are doing that correctly, the REIs of the world, the Dick's Sporting Goods of the world, they're doing great. You know, the Foot Lockers of the world, because you can go in and you can see the retailtainment that they have. You can touch and feel and be inspired. So as a person who grew up in the world of retail, I love retail and I hope that always stays around. I hope we can always work to reinvent the retail experience because digital is a huge thing and digital is a great thing, but we always need that touch and that feel. So how can I then translate that touch and the feel, that mental physical rush that I get from the retail and multiply that into digital.
Hmm.
And that comes with what you talked about earlier a little bit, the brand.
Hmm.
How can I make sure my A plus content oozes with emotion, oozes with information, oozes with value that allows that consumer to gravitate towards my brand in a way that they could very easily in a physical space. No, I've got to do it in a digital space.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how physical retail locations change and how their purpose changes, with so much being bought online these days, and manufacturers making it relatively simple to shop and return. There definitely is something to be said though for that brand experience and sort of immersing yourself in that retail environment that definitely has an impact. And so, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm curious, just any advice that you would give to a marketer looking to bring a new agency on board, in terms of, what to look for or how to think about the process of reviewing agencies?
Yeah, good question. You know, so many of the pitches and so many of the decks, and we all receive multitudes of emails a day saying, "Here who I am. This is my solution, my solution, my solution." Right? Um, to the point where our spam filters are cleaning those all out. Thankfully, quite honestly, come with quantifiable reasons for me to listen. Come with solutions that will work for me. And they don't have to be huge. They can be really small based on this is what we saw, this is what we do, and this is what the action we would see from that would be. Let's test it and let's tweak and let's go. Make the hurdle very small for adoption, so I can prove to myself, we can prove to each other, we can prove to the organization that this little initiative that we're testing is something that we should expand upon.
Mhm. Mm. Okay. And one last question: if I were an agency trying to knock down your door and trying to win business from you, what advice would you give that agency?
Yeah, yeah, and that's a tough one, right? We've all been in this sales role one time or another. So keep knocking on the door, keep showing value, keep your standards high of who you are and what you do, be confident in what you do, and realize that when you're reaching out to a company or you're reaching out to an individual, they have a multitude of needs. And sometimes the door may be open for what you're serving, sometimes the door may be closed for what you're serving. It's just a matter of matching their need with the time, and sometimes they match up, sometimes they don't. So stick with what you know, be confident with what you know, and if some people see value in that because it's the right time, the right place, the right need, terrific. But don't stretch yourselves too thin. It goes back to what we were talking about business wise earlier, in the evolution of a product. Once you start hitting a plateau or going down, don't panic. Stick with what you are and say, how can we make what we do so much better? If you're a creative agency, great. Double down on creative. If you're a digital agency, awesome. Double down in that. If you're another sort of an agency, figure out what your niche is and then be very confident in that. Go, 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 go,
Yeah.
go.
That,
Knowing that you're the expert in that vertical.
yeah, that's great advice, and I see it, on the agency, the business side of our business. Too often, agencies do, panic or just feel like they're missing out on something, and they try and, uh, you know, be everything to everybody, and that just, you'll look like everybody else if you
Yeah.
try and do that, and staying true to your core, I think is a great message to send. You also suggested in response to that question that agencies stick with it and keep trying to break down your door in showing value. It can take a long time to penetrate, the four walls that somebody like you operates in every day, and it is a bit of a timing game, and it is the right kind of message game, and just being, politely persistent, as we call it around here, is key. So, well, listen, Andrew, it's been great. You've done a great job, sort of turning the ship around, and it'll be really interesting as you kind of move into this next phase of really honing in on the brand's positioning, and building up sort of the character, and leveraging the equity that the Cutter and Buck brand has, to try and find a unique and ownable position. Should be an exciting time, and I certainly wish you all the best of luck in moving that forward.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. This is an incredible, exciting time for all of us. Change is constant in our lives, and change must be embraced. And now is the time for great people, great individuals, great companies to really define who they are and how they want to exist and really serve our customers in the future. So
Yeah.
have at it and have fun while you're doing it.
There you go.